Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1993. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Or I should say aloha, because today I'm in beautiful Oahu, Hawaii with a very special guest by the name of John Houlihan. John, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have it in gear and are you ready to release the clutch?
Yes, I am.
All right. The Hawaiian trade winds, so nice this time of year for those of us who live where it maybe isn't so warm. Before we get started and we talk about an amazing career that you had in design, I'd love for you to tell us one little thing that maybe most people don't know about you.
I'm a guitar player, have been since, my God, the 8th grade.
Wow.
Playing various bands all throughout. Even when I worked at TIMEX, TIMEX had a rock and roll band.
Really?
Yeah, they did. It was the TIMEX expansion band with the fabulous Indiglo girls. There were 3 girls. They were quite attractive, and they could sing. And it was, I'll tell you what, it was maybe the best band I ever played in musically.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah, these guys were good. I mean, the bass player was no question the finest bass player I've ever had the honor to play with.
Wow, very cool.
And the other guys were damn good. I mean, I had to really work to keep up with these fellows.
Well, that sounds cool. Yeah, I started playing guitar when I was about 6 or 7 years old, so I didn't keep up quite as prolifically as you have. Didn't play in my older years. I still have my guitars here, and I'm always surprised that the muscle memory's still there. I'll pick up a guitar, and I can just play like classical gas. Now, probably because that was a song that I had to learn how to play at a recital in front of a lot of people, so I practice. But I'm always kind of shocked when I pick up the guitar, or if I look at sheet music. I used to be able to read sheet music and write music, and I can pick out things and go, oh yeah, I kind of remember that, but I need to play more.
Good for you. Classical.
Yeah, kind of fun. Well, let me give you a proper introduction because today's more about cars than music. John Houlihan graduated from the University of Notre Dame in 1966 after earning a degree in industrial design and fine art. He was hired by General Motors working under Dave North in the design and development, and then later in the Advanced Studios and Future Concept Vehicles department. He was also involved in design for the 71 Buick Riviera Boattail. That was a very cool car. And the Chevy Vega. Had a good friend in high school that had one of those. After his time at GM, he worked at Smith Corona and General Electric designing products for those companies. He also worked at TIMEX, and he played in a band, in watch design as well. Later in life, John got more into cars. He added a 1962 Austin Healey BT7 Tri-Power to his garage, then a 73 Volvo P1800 ES. Now there's a cool design car, and a C7 LT2. We'll be back in just a minute, but first a word from our valued sponsors, so give them a little love, and we'll be right back. And think about those trade winds blowing across your face while you're sitting in the snow. We'll be right back. Covercraft's newest 5-layer indoor cover is especially engineered for indoor use, providing maximum dust protection when your vehicle's stored in the garage. Your 5-layer indoor cover is custom tailored with Covercraft's attention to detail, form, and fit with the quality and attention to detail that's been their standard since 1965. Even if your vehicle is always inside, dust and fallout can damage the paint, and an extra layer of soft, breathable material protects from accidental bumps and rubs. Covercraft protects cars, trucks, motorcycles, RVs, trailers, and watercraft too. Every one of my vehicles is protected with a Covercraft cover, custom fit to fit the car like a glove. And I have a deal for you. If you use the code YEAH21 at covercraft.com, you'll get 10% off your order plus free shipping. That's right, 10% off and free shipping. Simply use the code YEAH, YEAH21 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. I was tired of my rates for my collector car insurance going up every year for no explainable reason. my carrier seemed to be turning into a media company versus an insurance company, and I realized that a portion of my policy premium was paying for all those so-called free media goodies. So I did my homework, I talked to knowledgeable collectors, shopped around, and discovered American Collectors Insurance. They've been serving the collector car hobby since 1976. You last that long by properly serving your customers' insurance need, not with a lot of fluff. ACI is ranked the #1 online collector car insurance provider according to Google, Trustpilot, Facebook, and they offer their real person guarantee live support. No never-ending phone loops when you need help. Plus, because you don't use your classic car as a daily driver, you could save up to 40% compared to regular auto insurance. American Collectors Insurance provides agreed value policies. So if you experience a total loss to your collector vehicle or it's stolen, you'll be paid the amount listed on your declaration page, less any deductibles, of course. No ifs, ands, or buts. Give them a call today and ask for your free quote at 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of mine, Mark Greens at Cars Yeah. American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. So, John, let's talk a little bit more about your business. And I'd love to start, of course, with GM because you were involved in some pretty special cars. My understanding was that the Riviera was a pet project for the legendary William L. Mitchell. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your involvement in that, how you worked with the Riviera Boattail.
Well, it was in Advanced Buick Studio. Jerry Hirschberg was the studio chief designer, and Graham Bell was the assistant chief designer in and out. I was replacing Joan Cladle in that studio.
Joan's been a guest on this show. She's the one that introduced me to you.
Yeah, well, I think that was when she left GM, as a matter of fact, and I got to fill in for her at Jerry's studio.
Wow.
And this model had been kicking around, I think, in and out of some Buick studios, either another advanced studio, not body development, what am I thinking? Might have been in Studio X, Mitchell's secret personal studio. But anyway, we had this fantastic 3/8 scale model that a fellow from Australia had come back. He was an American, but he was in Australia for a while, came back and designed. And this was a Buick Riviera that was just the sleekest thing you've ever seen. And we thought that was going to be the next Riviera. Mm-hmm. On a unique package. It wasn't an A, it wasn't an E. It was somewhere in between. It had unique glass, which is a very expensive thing to tool for. It had unique everything. Yeah. And so the investment in this car would have been substantial. But mainly it was Mitchell's sweep spear dream car come true. And he's always been a fan of this whooping shape, Delahaye looking kind of design.
Oh, yeah.
And he was on top of this, like, well, all kinds of metaphors I could think of. and it was really quite something to be involved in that project, like right off the bat, coming out of whatever studios I was already in. This was really an opportunity.
That was a very unique looking car. I mean, it didn't look like anything else that most of us had ever seen. And when you think back now at how strict a lot of bureaucracy was in these huge automotive worlds, how did you guys pull off getting that thing actually built?
Well, actually, we didn't. And not that sleek, the harsh model. We never did. The AE, the unique glass, none of that was allowed because the Buick management, I just don't remember the gentleman's name, probably shouldn't say it anyway. First of all, never got along with Mitchell. I don't think Mitchell got along with anybody.
He was an independent guy, wasn't he?
Oh, man, yeah. Anyhow, this guy was just flat out not going to spend the tooling dollars for a unique anything. Mm-hmm. He would begrudgingly allow this and that, and a new Riviera was necessary. So we had to take that very sleek design and fitted over a B-body, a LeSabre type Buick. Using the B-body glass meant the windshield. The windshield was wider than the car, that original car. It was sticking out right and left like you couldn't believe. Wow. And I mean, at the time, I couldn't, when I saw that go up on the board and where the points you had to go through with the tape, I couldn't believe it. Like, how are we going to do this?
Yeah. And
it's really a credit to Hirschberg and the guys in that studio that they pulled it off, that we got that car laid out finally after I don't know how many full-size tape drawings and renderings it took, but we managed to do it. Now the car went from a shark to a whale. And it was also, because of its uniqueness, because of the pointed front end, because of the pointed rear end and the swooping fastback shape, the boat tail, it was a controversial design. And people either loved it or hated it, and more hated it than loved it. And we got a lot of flack in the studio. Hirschberg took a lot of heat from his fellow chief designers on this, what they call a theatrical, whatever, pay-in to Mitchell fantasies. But They pulled it off. It happened through sheer force of will on Mitchell's part, I'm sure.
You know, that car, you look at the rear end of that car, and even the front in a respect, but the back, of course, is what makes it. And it just, you kind of go, wow, how, this is so different. It's so cool. And almost like a Batmobile in a way.
It truly is. And another reason it managed to come into reality was because it was just preceding the bumper restrictions that were coming into play at that time. In fact, the 73, I don't consider the 73 a true Boattail because the Boattail got lopped off partly because of the bumper restrictions, but mostly because of the Buick management who hated the car. And literally one time I remember this guy, the manager, put his foot on the bumper and shoved it real hard, and a whole chunk of clay fell off the model.
I had Peter Brock on the show. He's become a friend of mine. And of course, he's known for, working as a very young person hired way back in the day. And he told me the same story one time about a big wig coming in, and they had the clay car there, and he brought his wife in or something and didn't like the car. And so the guy grabbed the fin and just snapped it right off and threw it on the floor and walked out. And it was like, whoa, okay, sorry.
I had no idea. Later on, I talked to Dave North about things. I had no idea what went on behind the scenes. I was just a young kid. I did my job. I paid attention to my sketches and work. I didn't really know the ins and outs of the politics and all, but there was all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, it was a very unique time in the automotive world, and you almost think back to people like Bill Mitchell and others that had so much power and persuasion, and you think, how did they pull this off? Like, how did that happen? But it was just a different time.
Well, yeah, what was it? I mean, if any of that stuff went on today, Mitchell he wouldn't be working at GM, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He'd have been sued at least.
Yeah, probably.
Because some of the stuff that he said to people and did, and oh my God, it was just crazy.
Well, and when Joan was a guest on the show, she talked about the fact that she was the first woman to work in there, and they kind of actually hid her away whenever the bigwigs would come down because they didn't want them to know there was a woman in there. And then when they found out, well, she was out and you were in.
Yeah, that's right. That was a shame. There was some sexual harassment, I guess is what you call it, going on.
Of course, yeah, and people got away with it. So
yeah, they didn't even think of it at the time.
No, unfortunately, things have changed now. But yeah, a fascinating story. Let's talk a little bit about the Vega because we're going from one extreme to the other here. I know, with a more affordable car. But I remember a friend of mine. I was old for my age because I was born in January, so I was always a little older than my friends. So I got my driver's license before all my buddies did. But there was one other guy I knew that got his, and his parents bought him a Vega. But this would have been 74-ish, I believe. Yeah, but his parents bought him this. It was like the Vega trying to be a sports car or something. And I remember it had special stripes on it or something, but it was kind of a bit of a joke.
Well,
it was a Vega
version, which was kind of cool looking. But then there was a Cosworth that was a sports car.
Yeah, I don't think his was that one. Yeah,
that was
Yeah. So tell me about the Vega. Like, what was the thought process when that car was was designed and then brought to market?
Well, that was Edward N. Cole's effort. He championed that car. He wanted a car to compete with Volkswagens, but mainly the oncoming Japanese cars, small cars. He definitely, and he was a big champion of the Corvair, which got ruined unfairly, I might add, by Nader.
Oh, yeah.
It just went down the tubes, and he wanted to atone, I suppose you could say, for that. And the Vega was the model that he chose to champion. And at first, the Vega wasn't called a Vega. It was called the XP887. Nobody had a name for it yet. For a time, believe it or not, for a time it was going to be called the, what's that Cadillac, cost Cadillac from the 30s?
Maybe the LaSalle?
It was going to be that. It was not a Cadillac. It was a sub-Cadillac in between Oldsmobile and Cadillac. It was the XP887 at the time. Mm-hmm. And the styling direction went back and forth. The one when I was in Advanced Chevy, this was an Advanced Chevy studio at the time, we had a model in there that came from another studio, probably from Chevy 2 or some other Chevy styling studio. And it was too GM-y, was the crit. It looked too much like a GM car. And so we had to make it look more European. We had pictures of the Fiat 124s and that ilk up on the wall, trying to emulate that rather crispy, boxy European look at the time. But I'll tell you what, the really good-looking car was going on it probably was Chevy 2 Studio, the Camaro design.
Oh, yeah. It has that kind of baby Camaro look to it.
Exactly, because I think a couple of us got latched onto that, and we just couldn't. The first time I saw that Camaro, it blew me away. A guy named George Gallion made a full-size, get this, perspective rendering in full three-quarter front, top-down perspective of the Camaro, and it was stunning. I could not get it out of my head. And beyond that, there was a station wagon Camaro in the studio, an elongated, big glass in the back station wagon, which I couldn't think of anything else. And I came back to the studio and made a rendering of it, a full-size tape. Got permission from they weren't tooling station wagon. They were only tooling a fastback and a notchback.
Okay.
And that was it. And so I did this rendering of a wagon. It looked good. And as a matter of fact, I finished it up. I worked on it nights and weekends and finished it up just before the Edward Cole entourage was going to visit. And what happened was I came in early, and early, like 5 a.m., and was working on the tape drawings and the rendering, the airbrush rendering, and getting it done. And the door started to rattle. All the doors were locked in those days. Maybe they still are. And so I went over, opened the door. Who could this be? And there he was, Edward N. Cole, president of General Motors, and no one else, just him.
Wow.
And I was completely in shock. And I'll never forget this. I said, "What are you doing here?" I couldn't believe it. And then I thought, oh, my God, that's my ticket out of here. But he ignored that and came in and he said, I want to see what's going on this car. And not what you guys or people here want me to see. I want to see what's really happening. Will you show me that? And I said, sure. Yeah.
Wow.
So I had to take him around the studio. Here's the notchback clay model. Here's the other one. And the tape drawing, the rendering wasn't finished. There was tape and masking and stuff hanging off. He said, what's that? And I said, oh, well, that's a station wagon version that I'm working. He said, we're not tooling the station wagon. And I said, I know that, Mr. Cole, but it is just a stunningly good design. And it would be the kind of a car that a guy like me or a family like me would want to be able to afford. We can't afford, even a Malibu is going to cost more money. And we want a wagon. A lot of families want a wagon. And it's certainly not a big B-body. This would be perfect for a young family with little kids. And he shook his head, and that was it. And I thought, oh, Jesus. Now, when he finally came back hours later with the entourage, and I mean, they had everybody comes in. They were accountants and engineers, but the studio personnel, with the exception of the chief designer, the studio engineer, and the chief clay modeler, sometimes, were relegated to the back room. We had to get out.
Yeah.
So, but I climbed up on the lockers and could see into the studio, so I could see what was going on. And the group is going around looking here and there. I was, by the way, had to put the rendering away. The boards, these big full-size boards, slid up into the ceiling, so they would be out of the way. And so I had to put mine out of the way. And Cole says to the chief designer, said, "Where's the wagon rendering?"
Uh-oh.
And I know. And luckily, I had his permission to do it, and he knew where it was. And he said, "Right over here, Mr. Cole." He rolled it down. And Cole looked at the group. He said, "All right." He said, "Small families are going to need this car. We're going to tool for this."
Oh my gosh. What did you think when you heard that?
I thought, my God, it wasn't my ticket out of here. But nothing else ever happened. I didn't get any more accolade or credit for it. But I mean, personally, I thought that was great.
Oh, wow. What a cool inside story. You know, it's just amazing sometimes how things come to be in the world and in automotive, the automotive journals, if you will, that we never even know these stories, and others, of course, that come to fruition, and we all go, who the heck does approve that? That's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. You know, you've talked about some pretty amazing people. Is there a driving inspiration in your life, some kind of key mentor or very influential person in your days of designing vehicles?
Well, as far as design goes, the North was a very, very big help to me at first. When I first came there, I knew nothing at all. I mean, nothing. And he was extremely helpful. There's a guy named Bernie Smith. I don't know if you ever heard his name. Bernie was chief designer, and I worked for Bernie, the first studio out of design development. He was incredibly helpful. And there was another fellow who sadly died not too long after I left, named Gordon Brown. And Gordy was a really good designer and very helpful to me. In fact, Gordy saved me in a way because I had gotten an offer from Chrysler. A lot of guys did that. They'd get these offers. And the Chrysler guy that made the offer was running this styling department, a guy named Art Blakesley. And I went in to see Gordy. He was my boss at the time, and I said, "I've got this offer." And he said, "Okay, hold it." He closed the door. He said, "All right, here's what I want you to understand. This is like a silver bullet. You get one. So it had damn well better be a good one. Because, you're not going to come back here. And if you don't like it there, what are you going to do?
Right.
Know?
Yeah.
And I thought about it. And he said, the money is great. They're going to offer you a lot more money. But he said, you're going to get used to that. It's not going to make that much difference in your life.
Smart guy.
And anyway, I took his advice. I stayed at GM.
Yeah. Very cool. We're going to take a short break. We come back. I want to talk about a big challenge you had in those days working on vehicles. I'm sure there was a few of those, so sit tight and we'll be right back. Spray on, wipe off sealants are a quick, safe, and easy way to clean and protect your vehicles. And I use them on my own beloved rides. Geez, almost every week. AutoGeek's Blackfire SiO2 spray sealant is a spray-on, a wipe-away sealant that uses SiO2 ingredients to provide a slick, brilliant, and long-lasting shine. Silicon dioxide is known to be one of the most effective ingredients in car care products, and Blackfire SiO2 spray sealant takes advantage of every stunning feature. This sealant will protect your paint from road, film, dirt, and other common contaminants while providing an impeccable, long-lasting, hydrophobic surface that forces water to sheet and bead on your paint for months. Go to autogeek.net and get yours for the best product selection on the internet today, along with their skilled technical support. That's autogeek.net. It's where I go for all my detailing needs. That's autogeek.net. Linkage. It's a new quarterly publication and website that covers the automotive market, driving, restoring, collecting, and discovering your passion for motor vehicles. Linkage is about experiences, opinions, and values. Linkage is an actual informed, reasoned opinion based on first-hand experiences. A talented linkage team covers the automotive world. The people who share your passion and mine, smart, considered, rational, and experienced opinions. Ones you can learn from and grow. That includes our passion that drives auctions and the collector car market. So come with me and join us on this journey. And be sure to use the code CARSYEAH when you subscribe, and they'll give you $10 off. Boom! Linkage, geared for the automotive life. Subscribe today at linkagemag.com. So let's talk about this. Obviously, your career, you had a long, fruitful career. Obviously, there was challenges, maybe even failures from here or there. But is there one that really stands out that was a great learning lesson for you?
I'll say just two learning lessons, I suppose. Yeah, when I left GM in the early 70s, early 1970 actually, and because I wanted to get other design experience, I was afraid that if you stayed too long as a car designer that you'd never be anything else. Not that that's bad, because other design people didn't take car designers seriously. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No.
Oh, yeah. The world of industrial design is very elitist, and they think car design is all flash and sketches and not valid product design and ergonomics and knowledge of how things work and how manufacturing works. And they're wrong, completely flat out wrong. The truth is, if you can design a car, you can design anything.
Yeah.
The other way around. Anyway, I wanted to make sure I understood that firsthand, so I got a job at SEM first, designing business machines and typewriters and things like that, adding machines, which is, when you think about it, Jesus, why would you want to do that when you could be doing
cars? Yeah.
Oh, and the car guys thought I was crazy. But it was challenging. I'm telling you, it really was challenging. And then I worked at General Electric doing consumer electronic products. And it was great fun. But it was not as challenging a field for designers, because those products are basically boxes and they have high relief. Parts could go in and go out, or there's recesses, but it's not a three-dimensional sculptural entity so much.
Sure.
And when I finally got to work at TIMEX, I was back into the three-dimensional sculptural challenge, where scale and styling and sculpture was really crucial to the success of the product. But we were getting to the mistakes that I've made. When I was at GE, I took an offer at Texas Instruments in Texas, Lubbock, Texas. You ever hear of Lubbock?
Oh,
Texas?
Yeah, sure.
Lubbock is a pool table. It gives new definition to flat. And one of the guys said you could stand on a beer can and see the whole town. He wasn't exaggerating. Anyway, I had this reaction, psychological reaction to Lubbock. I couldn't stand it. The vast horizon, the vast nothingness. I just hated it. So I had to get the hell out of there. That was a mistake. What I was paying attention to was the job and the, like Gordy said, the bucks that don't really matter in the long run. Other factors, but not where I was living. And that was a mistake. But I managed to extricate myself with the help of my dad. I worked for Milton Bradley, a division of Milton Bradley, which is a toy and game company.
Oh, sure.
And learned a lot about the toy business, and learned that styling and design didn't so much matter as clever, innovative techniques and little tricky things, that unique novelty items. Mainly that two things: that the item had at least certain dollars of advertising earmarked for it, or the buyers wouldn't buy it, and that it had a license. At the time, it was Star Wars and or Disney were the big licenses. Otherwise, the item didn't really matter much.
Interesting.
From a styling and design standpoint. But when I got to TIMEX, styling mattered completely. It was the most important thing from the standpoint of attracting consumer interest.
Right.
The way it looks regardless of cost. People have to like it. They're going to wear it. It's got to be something they really are attracted to and makes them feel more attractive themselves.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But the biggest mistake I made the whole time, and I never did correct it in time, was that I neglected my family job. I was focused on where was I working, what was the job, and what was I doing. And I'd work all kinds of overtime without regard to being at home.
Yeah.
I even gave up days, weeks of vacation in order to work on projects. And when I look back on that now, I see what a mistake that was.
I've heard this from so many people, the importance of family and time for family, and how many people my age, your age, look back and go, why did I give up so much of my valuable time to my work instead of the more important aspects of life, my family? And it's a hard lesson to learn when you get older because, as you and I know, time is the enemy. It is relentless. And as we get older, we have less of it and you can never make it up.
Yeah.
And so it's a really important lesson, especially for younger people. I'm seeing a bit of a trend in the workplace right now with my kids in their late 20s, early 30s, that there is more value placed on family time and not to kill yourself working all the time and giving up what you can never get back. And I have to say I'm happy. I've done what you did, John. I spent an awful lot of time at work and I wish I could have some of that back. It is what it is, but a good lesson for you younger listeners out there listening to this show right now.
Yeah, maybe I can help somebody avoid that mistake.
I hope so. Hey, let's talk about a special vehicle in your life. Now, this could be a vehicle that you've owned and driven and enjoyed, or maybe it was one particular vehicle that you really enjoyed working on in your career. More importantly, a story about that ride.
Well, let's see. There are two of them. One of them was, of all places, in Texas. I picked up a 1971 Chevy station wagon. The cheapest one, I think, is Brookwood or something like that. And I'll tell you what, I love that car dearly. It was an incredible vehicle. It was a boat. It was gigantic. It got like 9 miles to a gallon. But damn it, that car ran beautifully. And it had a big 400 cubic inch Chevy engine. And it was smooth as glass, quiet. You almost couldn't hear it running.
Really? I think of those cars as just giant boats and not that interesting. I would never have thought to describe it the way you experienced it. I'm surprised.
Well, I'm a station wagon guy. I love station wagons. And this station wagon was like driving a ballroom around, the size of a ballroom. And I remember my little daughter in the back. This is before seat belts were required and any kind of kid seat. They had little kid seats, but they were like plastic buckets. She was in the back and like romping around. I'm driving her to school. And the car was rattling. It had these covers over the storage areas. There were metal, no rug. I mean, this was the low-end car. And I said, Kate, make those things stop rattling. And she's spreading out on these things and bouncing around. And I'm now thinking about it. My God, I could have killed that little kid. If I put on the brakes fast or get in an accident.
Well, of course, yeah.
I shudder when I think of that. But this car just went everywhere and ran flawlessly.
Wow. We had station wagons in my house, the first generation, early 60s, mid 60s, Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser my parents bought. And then they bought another one in the early 70s. The first one was white with the fake wood vinyl on the bottom. And then the next one was that avocado green, that everything was avocado green in those years. Your oven, your refrigerator, your phone, your slacks, Zanzibelt slacks or whatever those were called. But yeah, wagons are a big part. They've kind of vanished now, haven't they?
They're gone.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
But things change. And you have to just deal with it. But yeah, it is sad.
Yeah.
The other vehicle that I would tell you about that I loved and admired was fairly recent, a 2010 Ford F-150.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
And I bought that car, or that truck, I should say, for a couple of reasons. I drove a Chevy and Silverado or whatever, and it was a good vehicle. except the interior was kind of cheesy. When I got into the Ford, it was like night and day. It was Ford Interior sold that car to me. And then once I had it, the rest of that was the only flawless vehicle to date I've ever owned.
No kidding. I'm shocked.
Yeah, in the 6 years I had that, not one single thing went wrong. Not one, nothing.
Wow.
And and you could go anywhere. My son pulled his. It had a trailer package, towing package. My son dragged his 34-foot big camper trailer up to Maine with it, and had experienced no problem at all. And it wasn't any. It was a 30 or what was it, a 350 or 305. Anyway, it was a small block V8, and it was powerful as hell.
Wow.
But I love that vehicle.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Ford, very cool, very cool. They've had a lot of years to get the 150 right, and it's still ticking today.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the TIMEX, takes a licking, keeps on ticking, right? So there you go. Still in my head. If you were a vehicle, John, this is you manifest as a vehicle. Here's where you can get some of your creativity going. What would you be and why?
Oh, this is another one you probably will be surprised. I'm a Chevy guy, so I'd be a Chevy. And I would be a 1955 Chevy.
Okay.
Probably a wagon, probably the 235-6 with Power Glide automatic transmission, because that's a utilitarian vehicle. It gets the job done. It's responsible. It's reliable, but it's classic.
There you go. I love it. So is there a book you'd like to share with us that you've enjoyed reading?
Yeah, there was a book I read several years ago, and it was weird. It was about statistics, and I'm not a math guy, but this was about the way it was called Envisioning Information by a guy named Tufte, a professor at Yale in statistics, who really was a graphic designer at heart, because he presented his statistics visually, and it was like opening a new world. Now you get it. You see the patterns, the shapes, the proportions of one thing to another. Sort of like a simple bar graph is better than just the numbers on a page. But the way this guy had all kinds of clever graphic innovations that would communicate certain things. The one example I'll give you was, I think it was Napoleon's advance to Moscow. And it starts out with this big fat purple area on a map advancing toward Moscow. And as the time changes and gets colder, the purple thing, blob or whatever you want to call it, starts to get skinnier and skinnier and smaller until it almost disappears.
Wow.
And the point being, that's what happened to his army as he advanced on the Russians, and the winter just took its toll.
Oh, yeah.
As well as the Russians.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I took some statistical analysis classes my first year in college, and I had one professor that I always remembered he did a lot of what you were talking about, and it clicked in my head versus the other professors doing it all mathematically, I guess. This guy used visual. I'm a visual guy, studied, design in school and so forth. That's my thing. So it just proves there's different ways to teach the same ideas, and some ways click better for other people. So first time that book's ever been recommended. I'll put a link to that. It's available on Amazon. Easy to get still today. So I'm going to let you go on the ultimate drive here. I've got an open checkbook for you, my friend. You can pick any vehicle. You can pick anybody, living or deceased, and you can drive anywhere. What does an ultimate drive look like for a guy like you?
Well, the ultimate drive would be in a Boattail Riviera.
Okay.
I still want to get one, but they're getting expensive.
Yeah.
Now, as to who would I go with, I really don't know. There's different people, different reasons why I would select different people. So I don't want to name anyone.
Okay.
For that reason, because otherwise,
would it be a designer? Would it be somebody who's an automotive designer or somebody?
Probably not.
No.
Probably.
Okay. You've been around too many of those.
Yeah. Well, no, not too many, but just someone with a different slant, probably.
Okay.
And possibly a musician, though, so we could play bluegrass. But
yeah.
But I don't know. But definitely would be a 71 or a 72 Riviera Boattail.
Okay. I like it. Very cool. Well, I want to do a shout out to our mutual friend, Joan. I won't say you're responsible for kicking her out of her job because you weren't. But Joan Cladle-Kramer was a guest here on Cars Yeah. For you listeners that missed my talk with her, you've got to go back. She's very active still in the creative field. She's written some wonderful books that she actually sent me from my new grandson that was born last year. I read his first Christmas book to him, and it was her book. So Joan, thank you for introducing me to yet another very fascinating guy here. And John, before I let you go, John, could you share an inspirational quote, a mantra, or some kind of a meaning that has, or I should say, some kind of saying that has a meaning to you?
Yeah, I will. It's not a saying. It's what I would teach, if you will, to my students at University of Bridgeport. I was taught there for a couple of semesters, and what I would tell those guys or girls is, right in the beginning, I would ask them a couple of questions. And I'd say, okay, I got 4 rules of success. If you follow these rules, you will be successful. And I saw this right from the first week at General Motors, or the first month at Design Development Studio. 1 is show up.
Yeah.
2 is on time. 3 is do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And 4 is do a little extra. And
nice.
You do those things with consistency, and you will be successful no matter what you're doing.
Pretty simple stuff there, but you know what? A lot of people don't get it. They've never been told. And I tell you, all my years of running companies and being part of companies, the people I had the most challenge with were the ones that didn't do those 4 simple things. All the time. I can't tell you, one of the things I used to do is when people wouldn't show up on time is I'd buy them an alarm clock and I'd wrap it very nicely in a little box and I'd bring them in and say, I need to have a talk with you. And I'd push that across the table and said, I have a gift for you. And you know how the rest of the conversation went.
Oh, yes.
So I kind of became known as, you don't want to get a gift from Mark. It means you're in trouble. But it's pretty easy and pretty simple to be successful. Just follow John's 4 rules for success. John, you've been great to talk with today, and I can't thank you enough for taking some time away from probably your beach time there in Hawaii. I'm jealous. This has been fun.
I appreciate the opportunity. This is fun.
Well, good. Well, I want to thank you again for being so generous with your time. Until you and I talk again, my friend, maybe I'll see you not down the road, but on the beach. That sounds like a nice place to meet.
Come on out.
Mahalo. This has been great. Aloha.
Aloha.
20, 50, or 100 years from now, will there be a workforce to care for the collector vehicles that you and I love? With auto shop programs disappearing across the country, it's a question we enthusiasts have got to ask. That's why I support the RPM Foundation, which exists to ensure that the critical skills necessary to preserve and restore these vehicles are not lost. One of the many ways RPM, short for Restoration, Preservation, and Mentorship, is accomplishing its goals is through workforce development initiatives. The RPM Apprenticeship Program enables the next generation of artisans to earn a living while they learn the craft of restoring and preserving vehicles directly from industry professionals. The Endangered Skills Program documents process of master's training future craftspeople on a variety of critical skills in danger of being lost. For more information on how the RPM Foundation is driving the future of the collector vehicle skill trade, visit RPM Foundation today, one of the charities of choice here at Cars Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.